Hi everybody, my name is Zeke Torres and I am going to give you the fastest presentation on how to get started with SAS. So if you've decided that you need to learn about SAS and you want to pursue free material and resources that cost you the least amount of money possible, this is it. The first thing I want you to do is link up with me on LinkedIn and or GitHub. You can find me there. So what you want to do is open up an account with SAS.com. It is for free. The reason you do that is because with your SAS.com profile, you can enable alerts to regional events, local events, and other events that are useful. But you will then have access to communities.sas.com. It is really useful. It is basically SAS's version of Stack Overflow. There's a lot of user to user help being found there and generated there. So it is a pretty good website. One of the advantages of this website versus open websites like or social sites like Facebook is that there are not any kind of spam or fraudulent kind of learning accounts allowed there. So it's a really great site to go to. So the next thing you want to look at is user groups. I represent the Chicago area SAS users group. You can find us on wcsug.com, but there's a few different types. There's SAS Global Forum is the international forum. It is typically in the spring. Due to the coronavirus, it wasn't able to be held in Washington, D.C. this year. Everybody regrets it. It's a great event, lots of networking. There's a few thousand people that show up, at least 5,000 people that show up. It is the premier event to go to. Then there are regional events. The regional events are typically in the fall. You will have events at, for example, the Western users of SAS, Southeast users, South Central, Midwest, and so across the United States, there are different groups, and then different regions of the world have their own groups as well. Those kind of taper down into the local groups. Local groups are basically not only in the United States, but in the UK, Canada, you name it, there's typically a local user group that's active. Again, I'm from the Chicago area, so I run the Windy City SAS users group, but we have great groups in, for example, in the UK and Florida. There's groups as well. Dallas also has good groups. Then you have in-house groups. So every company is allowed and supported by SAS to have in-house groups, and then there's special interest groups. One big differentiation here is that regional groups, local groups, are volunteer groups, as well as SAS Global Forum. Although SAS Global Forum is supported by SAS Institute, as well as the regionals and locals, SAS corporate itself tends to leave the administration and the running of regionals and locals and in-house groups to the leadership of those teams. So the volunteers that run these groups really go out of their way to help support the user community. SAS Global Forum is also a volunteer-based group, but they receive a lot of support by SAS to produce that kind of premier corporate event. So when you do attend these events, please thank the people that are there. Regionals do come with a cost, as well as the SAS Global Forum side, because they are obviously groups that meet in event locations or venues that incur costs. Locals vary. Some local user groups tend to do things for free. I myself, when I administer or run the volunteer group with the Windy City, we don't like to charge for things, but there are some locals that do incur some fees based on, if there's a venue or if there's some refreshments or things like that. So every group's run a little bit differently, but please thank the volunteers that are helping organize those groups because it is effort that we put into in order to support our communities. So the next thing is web resources. As of today, April 2020, the reason why I generated this video is because there's a lot of free resources being provided by SAS.com. The team there has done a great job of, trying to help users that are basically at home or not able to get to work the correct way by increasing the amount of resources they have to improve their skill sets. So there's books that are available. There's training that's available as well for your certification or for looking at like data science is one of the promotions that's there, as well as webinars. So again, if you opened up your SAS.com profile, that'll help you keep alerts or receive alerts as to what's going on. YouTube is another great source, but one of the reasons why I created this video is because when I typed in start with SAS, there was way too much stuff that came up and it took way too long to get to what it's about. This video is meant to organize where to go to get different parts of the help that we might need. Papers, those are things that are written by us, by users, for users, and someone named Lex Jansen grabbed all the PDFs and all the papers from the previous the past user group conferences and has been creating an archive of some great resources and materials going back decades. So one of the advantages of being a SAS user is that you have a great resource in that users have written papers and published them. So feel free to find mine there, and if they're of any use, that's great. Let me know. Hit me back with an email or again a LinkedIn, and I'd love to hear what your comments are and even critiques if you find some mistakes because I know they're out there. User to user help. So obviously Stack Overflow is a great resource and we all go to it for different syntaxes, but again, communities.sas.com is a great resource as well. GitHub is another place where you find more SAS repositories. And then you have your user groups. User groups, again, come in all scales and sizes, but your local ones are the ones that tend to meet more often. Your regionals are only in the fall. SAS Global Forum, PharmaSug, and some of the other ones tend to be in the spring. All right. And I did not mean to omit PharmaSug from the other slide. It was actually meant to be in the special interest group. So I know I'm going to hear from them. The next thing you want to do is where else can you go? One of the cool sites that I participate in, along with some of the other local leaders and some of the other people that are really active with SAS, is SAS Sensei. It is a great site where you can take what you've learned and practice and rehearse it. Take a look at it, find us. You'll find me in there. I think I'm one of the top leaders in the US, but I know I shouldn't be there. I think that there are other smart SAS users in the US that can knock me down a few pegs. I encourage it. Please find me and challenge me there. I'd love it. And then there's books by users, books by authors who have done some really great knowledge sharing in terms of the publications that they've created. There's Art Carpenter, Kirk Laffler, Ron Fed, just to name a few. And there's so many other ones that, I've done an injustice by not actually including them in that list. But I wanted to try and get this presentation done to you as fast as possible so you can go back out there, register on SAS.com, and download some of those free books.